everyone, welcome back. This is going to be a really interesting video for the fact that it's going to be something I'm trying out completely new here. Basically what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be taking these 3 different structure decks. I'm going to open the rest of the 2 up, and then I'm pretty much just going to be building them right on the spot live, as if I'm pretty much building them on my own, and you guys are basically going to be joining me throughout my whole thought process and seeing if I've made any of the right choices or not. But at the same time, it gives you guys a good idea as to what I'm actually thinking when I'm actually trying to build a deck. And so yeah, this I thought would be a very unique video that no one else has actually done before. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. If you guys haven't checked out the opening video where I actually opened up this one, then go check it out. I'll probably leave an annotation just above. But with that being said, yeah, let's just open these up and let's just get started. Alright, well, so we have all 3 of these opened up. You know, what's an interesting thing? The yugioh, Lord of Phantasm's Shimmering Scalper, over here, it's quite a nice card, and the thing is this, I can promise you guys that you won't be playing 3 copies of it in any deck whatsoever. Even if you were to build a pure version of yugioh himself, you would still be playing at best 2 copies. You wouldn't be playing 3 copies. So what my suggestion would be was actually maybe I would take one of them and then just I don't know, send it off to get graded, and that would be pretty interesting. So if you guys don't know, there's PSA grading, and there's also like BGS or CGC grading as well. So these different companies, they basically can grade your cards, and if you can get a PSA 10, then you're basically increasing the value of the card itself. Not to mention it becomes a great collector's card, so that would be pretty fun. And basically after looking at all of these right now, I'm gonna assess and see which one's actually quite viable. I mean, to be honest, they are all just unwrapped right now, so as long as I keep it in good condition and I don't do anything, I could probably send one of them off to get graded, and that would be quite fun. I don't even see this card being reprinted anytime soon, so it might be worth it. Not to mention, this is also the first edition version as well, so why not? It seems like it's worth it. So before you actually get these cards graded, you're going to have to sleeve them up, but you can't sleeve them up in regular sleeves like we mostly use. We have to actually use specific sleeves known as penny sleeves. They're basically really cheap sleeves that are really loose, but it allows you to put in your card without potentially scraping it, I guess, because when your card is getting graded, they do grade the surface of the card itself. So to avoid any damage, you don't want to get your nails onto it. You want to use the really particular area where your skin is most likely on it. But yeah, to avoid as much damage as possible, you want to handle the card really carefully and basically sleeve it in the penny sleeve where it's somewhat loose inside so that it doesn't move around too much. And then you put it in a top loader or a particular type of I don't know, card protector, and you essentially just do your thing, wrap it up. I'm sure you guys know the process, but yeah, this is something that I'm thinking about actually doing. So I have my penny sleeves over here. So you essentially just have your sleeve like so, it's loose up there, and you're gonna handle the card really carefully, making sure your nails doesn't actually get on it. And you're just going to slip the card right in like so, and that's pretty much it. And then you put it in the top loader or whatever and send it off, which is pretty nice. So I'm actually going to do it for all 3 of them, and then I'll properly take a look at them and assess them just to see whether or not any of them are actually worth grading. Hopefully they are, because when it comes to grading, they also grade the corners of the cards, they grade the edges of the cards if they've been whitened, or they also grade the centering as well. So if these borders might be slightly tilted to this side where there's more border over here than over here, then that could also affect the grading of the card as well. So I'm going to pick up these cards really carefully and just going to slip them all in like so. And then the final one, And I figure it's worth doing it for this because of the fact that it's its first introduction in a first edition variant. So I think it would be quite worth it. Let me just Alright, and we have them all in here now. So now that they're actually in their sleeves, they're going to be a bit safer, and yeah, that'd be great. So I'm just going to keep them aside, but you know, essentially we have all of these here as well, but these are being reprinted several times already, so there's no purpose in us actually grading these. I mean, if you want to, you could, but you have to also keep in mind that to grade a card, you have to pay quite a bit of money to grade even one card. So I don't know, the cheapest one you could probably grade $10 per card, so it's going to be expensive. Choose wisely what you actually want to grade, and I think grading one of these would be quite nice. But let's move these aside, and now let's actually build the deck itself. So the main part is we're obviously going to be building the deck, and the first thing I'd actually like to do is to sort them out into playsets of 3. So let's actually just do all that. Alright, so the way I actually did this was I sorted out all the main cards of the deck itself, so basically the core cards or the main Sacred Beast support cards, being all of these over here as you can see on screen. Everything else I pretty much put them in a separate pile because they're more generic cards, so we could easily come back to them later on. But with that being said, we now have to decide on the core essential skeleton of the deck itself, and that will pretty much get us an idea of what we could actually do with this deck itself. So to begin, we're going to put away the fusion because in this case we are trying to build the budget variant where we're strictly just focusing on the 3 structure decks. I figured that would actually be easier to do for this as well, because if I was to include cards outside of the structure deck, it would definitely be a really long video because I'd be including so many different cards that it would take forever to explain or justify their means in the deck itself. So I'm just going to use all of the cards in the structure decks. So what this means is with the extra deck we pretty much will be playing all the fusions because we have plenty of space, so no issue there. However, with that being said, for each of these cards over here, we're going to start off with monsters, and then we'll move to spells, and then traps. That's typically the order in which I'd like to start off building my decks, and we can make adjustments later on. So let's begin. Firstly, let's just go with the main cards itself, the Sacred Beast. I keep saying Crystal Beast. Alright, that's definitely weird. I'm supposed to have 3 of them, but I only have 2 copies of Uriah for some reason. And I have here... oh, look at that. It's actually like stuck beneath it. So here's the Raviel. It's fine. We're going to build the deck itself. So I'm thinking with Raviel, we're not really going to be playing all 3 of them unless we want to build a pure Raviel deck, but that's not my intention. I'll probably do that in a separate video, but for now, I think at best you play 2 copies. Given that we're playing a budget, we can't really include cards outside of it, so with that being said, we are kind of restricted in some sense. So I'm going to play 2 for now, and we'll come back later and make adjustments if we have to. So I'm just going to leave them right here, and then we'll take the other one and just put it aside. Next we have over here Hamon. Hamon is definitely better than Raviel and Uriah. It is the best Sacred Beast, at least in terms of what its effect is, and at the same time I would only play 2 copies at the very most. I wouldn't play 3 copies for the mere reason that 3 copies just seems unnecessary. So I'm going to put 2 copies in the deck as well, and we'll make adjustments later on if we need to. But yeah, we'll just continue, and same thing for Uriah. I'm thinking playing 2 copies of each definitely works quite well for the deck itself. So now let's actually move on to the other monsters. We have over here Dark Summoning Beast. So Dark Summoning Beast is actually one of our older support cards. The problem with the first effect is you can't actually attack when you activate its effect. You could tribute itself and then special summon any of your Sacred Beasts. It's really amazing, but the fact that not only is it a level 5, but also the fact that you prevent your attack that turn, well, for the rest of the turn, it only applies to main phase 2. So for main phase 1, unfortunately this card is not really great, and you only have the graveyard effect, where you could banish this and add any of your Sacred Beasts from your deck to your hand. So with that being said, I'm going to be playing 2 copies at very most of it as well. Next over here we have the Dark Summoning Beast. So Dark Summoning Beast I actually think is an amazing card. Firstly, it's a searcher. When you normal summon it, you could basically add anything that has Sacred Beast in its name, whether it's actually on the card text here or in the effects. And you can't add itself of course, but you can add pretty much every one of these cards, even Dark Summoning Beast, even Chaos Summoning Beast, and you could even add, I believe, any card as well. So that means any of your spells and traps that actually could search out or include the name for Sacred Beast would still apply. So it's a really amazing card. Second effect also allows you to do an extra normal summon. So with that being said, it's a no-brainer. We're playing 3 copies. With Chaos Summoning Beast, I also believe this card to be a really good card as well. You basically contribute this card and then special summon Uriah or any of your Sacred Beasts from your hand, ignoring summoning conditions, and then you could basically banish this card from the graveyard and add your Fallen Paradise. So a bit similar to Dark Summoning Beast and Dark Beckoning Beast, but it has its own niche to it. So again, 3 copies. I just think it's really amazing. Finally, here we have Chaos Core. It's a bit more on the generic side of things, but it is, I believe, more so a stall card. So you just play one of them and your opponent won't deal any damage to you because it will just protect itself and you won't take any damage. So I think playing one of them, maybe 2 of them, because of the fact that this is strictly 3 structure decks, so we have a bit more room to actually play like an extra copy of it. So with that being said, I'm going to play 2, but maybe in the normal deck I'll actually play 1 copy of it. So there we go, we essentially sorted out the main boss monsters, or the main monsters of our deck in general, and so now we can move on to the spells and traps. So here's our different options. Anyways, we'll just move on. Right now over here we have our Cerulean Skyfire. Definitely a really amazing card. The fact that it has a negation and also making it easy for you to summon out your Hamon, I believe playing at least 2 copies of it would be good. We can always adjust it later on, but for now 2 copies seems to be amazing for the time being. Hyperblaze, actually I'm just going to go with this quickly because it's also one of the new cards as well. Makes Uriah summoning very easy as well, and also gives you a nice boost if you want to. Not as great as Cerulean Sky, but I think we could fit in 2 copies for this particular version of the deck itself. With that being said, we also have here our Dimension Fusion Destruction. At best 2 cards is fine because you are going to be banishing off your Sacred Beasts and you technically don't want to do that, so 2 copies is already great for the fact that at least it will improve your consistency for the card, on top of the fact that it could already be searched out, and of course by the time you do your second one you're pretty much going to OTK your opponent. Next of course we have here the Fallen Paradise. Absolutely amazing card, protects your Sacred Beast but also just does a lot of different other shenanigans as well. So with that being said, I am going to be playing 2 copies and maybe we'll go with the adjustments later on. It does seem weird that I'm just choosing to play 2 copies of everything, but hey, that's just the way I like to do things. With Opening of the Spirit Gates, this card is basically 3 effects in 1. It's an amazing card and without a doubt we're playing 3 copies of it. It's just far too good to actually play any less than that. It's an amazing card. Next we also have our Phantasmal Mateers. This card is not actually the best card, so for once we're actually not playing this card in the deck. It's not worth it. It just forces you to send everything to your graveyard, so from your hand to the graveyard, just to summon out 3 tokens. It seems a bit risky. You might play 1, but I'm not gonna bother. We might add it in later on if it works. Next over here we have Awakening. So Awakening is a very interesting card because it's a trap card as well, so it is a bit slow, but you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and just put 2 of them in the deck. So we're gonna take these 2, put it in the deck. Definitely really nice. But yeah, that's essentially the basic core of the deck itself, the skeleton. So now we could actually focus on adding in the additional cards. Alright, so off screen I took the liberty of actually organizing all of the spare cards, which is definitely really great, and then I decided what could I actually add left over into the deck. Well, I actually counted up the deck that I had, well, the skeleton that we actually built early on, and we found that there was actually 29 cards. I don't know why I'm saying we, but, well, I guess it's you guys and me. So yeah, we actually have 29 cards here, so I needed 11 more cards if I wanted to keep it a 40 card deck. So with that being said, I scoured through this entire bulk of cards here, and just went through and found that these other cards in the structure deck are worthwhile. So there's the 11 cards, and yeah, let's actually take a look at all of them. So I'm playing here a Field Barrier. Basically, Fallen Paradise is an absolutely amazing card. I've actually seen some deck profiles on YouTube as well, where some people have made budget variants like this, where they essentially just take 3 structure decks, and I've seen really bad ones, I've seen really good ones too, but the bad ones is anything that plays 1 copy of Fallen Paradise is just a really bad move. I don't understand why someone would only play 1 copy of it. I mean, they definitely don't know how to play the deck whatsoever. So yeah, with that being said, Fallen Paradise plays out either 2 or 3 copies, but I've also decided to also play the Mound of the Bound Creator in the deck, at least 1 copy of it. So by playing this particular card in with the Fallen Paradise, I have my 3 field spells, and together with the Terraforming, I could essentially just get what I need. With the Field Barrier, I could also keep them protected as well. Field Barrier just works so well with the Fallen Paradise for the fact that you're firstly protecting your Sacred Beast with the Fallen Paradise, but then to get through to Fallen Paradise, they have to get through Field Barrier first as well. Not to mention the fact that Field Barrier also locks out your opponent from playing their field spells. And if you're actually playing this as if you're playing some kind of rogue deck against someone like, well, let's see, what kind of decks are actually up there at the moment that actually have field spells? Well, you could actually consider Prankids, where they have their field spell Prankid's Place. There's also Meltdown as well, which is really big, of course. And you know, with those particular field spells, to have Field Barrier out, you kind of lock your opponents from actually being able to do that, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, this deck alone, I mean the Field Barrier alone actually, will pretty much deal with the invoked engine that your opponent is actually incorporating in their deck. So I actually believe that this deck, while it can't be meta, it can actually borderline be rogue, which is something that a lot of people shouldn't underestimate. But these field spell engine cards over here definitely works really well for this particular deck, so I absolutely love it. Next, I'm also going to talk about the 1-for-1 as well. I added this in because, well, 1-for-1's only at 1 copy, but we are actually playing here our 1 copy of Chaos Summoning Beast, and because it is a waste of a normal summon kind of, we actually have the 1-for-1, making it really helpful, also helping us ditch any of these cards to the graveyard as well to bring it out. And since we're playing 3 copies of this, we don't really have to worry about the 1-for-1 being a dead card. But yeah, with that being said, if you want additional summons, then the Dark Beckoning Beast can give you the additional anyway, so definitely quite nice over there. But with that being said, here's the monsters. So we have over here 2 Radiant. I figure if you're going up against any deck that plays Dragoons, you're going to have to get rid of it somehow, and Radiant does the job. Appaloosa, a lot of different options that you could just get rid of, and Radiant is there to actually deal with those. And considering the fact that Radiant, yeah, it's 2800, it's high attack, but hey, you're playing Sacred Beasts, all of your monsters will pretty much get over the Radiant no problem whatsoever, so it definitely works out amazingly. Next over here we also have some trap cards, and the reason why I'm playing trap cards is because of the fact that we're also playing Hyperblaze, allowing us to be able to send our traps to the grave. We're also playing here 2 Awakenings, so together with these and these over here, we technically have like 8 trap cards in total, which, while it seems like a lot and it might slow you down, it does bring out your Uriah very easily as well. But they also have their own personal functions if you want to actually make that work. So we have over here a Dark Factory of more production. I figure that this card kind of allows you to cycle through your deck, And yeah, being that it's continuous, it's great, and if you need to use it for Uriah, then no big deal. We also have over here the Imperial Custom, kind of protecting our continuous trap cards, so that's also another option I have, but mostly can be used as fodder to bring out Uriah as well. Then we have over here 2 copies of Escape from the Different Dimension, or Dark Dimension, sorry. Different Dimension will be a very broken card in the deck. But no, this deck does banish quite a lot. We're playing 2 copies of the Dimension Fusion Destruction. With that being said, we're banishing off all of our Sacred Beasts, and assuming they've already been special summoned at first, then you bring them back out with the Escape from Dark Dimension, and you're just going all over the place here. So it's definitely really amazing, and it definitely really helps out. Of course, with that being said, we also have enough space to play 1 copy of the Raviel Lord of Phantasm Shimmering Scraper as well, and the reason why playing 1 of these is enough is for the fact that it could actually just be brought back to the hand from the graveyard again. So with that being said, I'm only playing 1 copy of the Raviel, and this brings our deck up to 41 copies. So if you want to keep it at 40 copies, you just take out the Imperial Custom, and you have 40 copies of a deck pretty much. So this is essentially the general gist of how I do deck building. I pretty much go over the basic skeleton of what I need to build first, followed in a specific order of monsters, spells, then traps, and then I do so by taking in additional cards that are kind of somewhat viable for the deck itself. In this case, the structure deck already provides those cards, and I sort them out and I figure out from monsters, spells, and traps which ones to add in that particular order. And yeah, I try to pretty much keep it at 40. If I need to go over, it does depend on what I'm adding in, if it is definitely necessary or not. And yeah, with that being said, I essentially create a deck that I can be very happy with. But of course, there is then stuff like testing as well, play testing, and seeing if things work. If they don't work, then I obviously take out cards, I add in new cards as well. For example, other cards I might consider in this particular deck as well might be something like Pot of Desires. You could play it, though it is risky for the fact that you're banishing your cards face down, and if you're doing that, it's a huge risk as well. So I don't think it's worth it just to draw 2 cards. Just because this card is played in meta decks doesn't mean that it's going to work in a casual deck. We also have cards that can also facilitate us in different ways as well. Where is Chupacabra? Chupacabra is over... where is it? Chupacabra is over here. You might think it's good, but in this particular case, you're not playing any other dangers. It is the only danger in the deck. So if your opponent picks the Chupacabra, you just negged 1, which is not great. And just to draw 1 card, it's technically a +0. So yeah, you could think of it as an upstart, but if your opponent guesses the Chupacabra, you just lost an extra card in your hand, and it just seems like a waste. So with that being said, you could also play cards like Mystical Space Typhoon just to get rid of back row if necessary, and you could play cards like Phantom Skyblaster to help facilitate more monsters on the field to bring out your Raviel. But with that being said, this is essentially my deck building process, so I will be doing a few adjustments. I'll do a few test hands on this, and then I'll readjust the deck a bit by adding in more cards, and then when I'm actually happy with a final build, I'll then put up a proper deck profile for this particular budget variant of the deck, where I use only 3 copies of the Sacred Beast structure deck. But with that being said, I hope this brings you some insight as to how I actually build. If it's actually similar to yours, then that's great, you know. And yeah, that would be quite fantastic as well if you could tell me how you guys actually build your decks and your process of actually working things out to build something amazing. Obviously, this is not the final version, but it gives me a near complete build in just a few minutes. I mean, well, not a few minutes, but with how long is this video? It's about 20 minutes, right? A little over 20 minutes, and we've built pretty much an entire deck. But playtesting, readjusting, all of this is definitely going to contribute to making a better deck. And of course, we're playing all of these cards in the deck as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile, or this deck building process. So if you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. Also share this video for anyone who might be interested in how this might work, and also subscribe for more videos just like this. Do look forward to the deck profile, and then after that I might even post up decks test hands for this as well. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.